again, I'm not a legal analyst. It just seems to me a lot is riding on consent here, on
Yes.
the facts that you just described. They're having sexual interactions of one kind or another. She was okay with this, but she was not okay with that. A lot is riding on that, and it looks. I mean, it would be easy for me to envision ambiguities and differences of interpretation, and am I justifying rape here? I think that's what people are going to say at the end of the day. Passions of the moment, I was about to say. It's kind of like it's a negotiation. I'm sorry. I know it sounds terrible. I know. Please just correct me. I'm asking for correction. I want guidance here. Uh, because this kind of thing that's going on between the man and the woman, the man and the man, whatever, uh, in the moment of this dynamic, just ex post facto to come back away from that and interject at this moment it was yes and then it became no. Kind of. And you're going to bring the law into that? You're going to ruin people's lives because of that? I don't know. Bail me out, please. What am I saying that's wrong?
This is so I'm listening to you, and this is why talking about this is so hard. Why is it so hard for you and I to have a conversation about this? What if we were talking about a robbery? What if we were talking about a murder?
Yeah.
And it was being adjudicated on campus and adjudicated in court? I think you and I would be having a much easier time than we are right now.
Yeah.
So why is this so hard? I think it's really hard for a couple of reasons. It's hard because we've come out of this, and we're still in this Me Too era, right? Where we are acknowledging how we've been treating women, including on college campuses. And I can tell you, having been on them, it was not a picnic in the 90s when I was on college campuses, and there wasn't Title IX, and things happened to me that were not great, and I had no recourse. And it's not as if most people who say they've been sexually assaulted are making it up, right? And so we know all of this. We know we have this really awful history of throwing these allegations out the window, burying them under the rug, whatever your metaphor. We have all of that going on. And at the same time, we have a system of assessing serious allegations in our country that is about probing and is about being skeptical and is about asking, where is the evidence? And so those things are bumping up against each other. And then you layer onto that the nature of the allegations that we litigate in my clinic, which are generally cross-racial. And you have a history in this country of white women and Black men and rape allegations. And so when you put all of that together, it's such a mess. And it's really hard to know how to say and do or feel the quote unquote right thing. Never mind, stay on your own team.
Your own team. So was there a rape culture on campuses in the 90s when you were a student, in your opinion?
No, I wouldn't say there was a rape culture. I would say that there was no mechanism to really report when something happened. I would say that there were just a lot of situations where there was some level of coercion and things. I mean, I'm being inarticulate here because I'm like struggling to sort of think about some of my own experiences. And I had some experiences where I really felt badly treated and coerced, and even sometimes like physically pushed to do things. At the same time, I'm not really sure that if I had had a Title IX mechanism available to me, I would have used it, or even that in my mind, I thought of it as an assault. I think I thought of it as, quote unquote, bad sex.
What about believe women? Isn't that part of the problem? Isn't that why it's difficult? Because not only is there a history of cross-racial allegation, there's also a history of the discounting the victim of rape because she's quote a slut, close quote. The woman in the case at hand, your Jane, certainly would qualify as a target if we were back in the old days where that kind of thing could get into the discussion. So we've passed. We're not in the old days anymore. We've learned that you don't judge by the length of the girl's skirt whether or not she was inviting an attack. Likewise, you don't presume to. The administrator in the case at hand is siding with the girl because she believes her. She says she believes that she did not want that, and it happened to her. And you believe women, so you're a traitor not only to your progressivism but to your sex.
That's right. You're a traitor to your gender. And
Thank you
I
for the
think
correction.
you put your finger on exactly what it is that makes it so uncomfortable, that the slogan coming out of Me Too was believe women. But I find that deeply problematic as an advocate, because I don't think that any gender or race or ethnicity has a monopoly on the truth. We don't say believe men. We don't say believe X ethnicity. We say show me the evidence. We say we're going to test your allegation. And so there's something to me that's so problematic about that. It feels like an overcorrection. And yet, my even saying to you, no race or gender has a monopoly on the truth, as I'm saying those words to you, they seem highly controversial.
We do live, uh, Madam Law Professor, in the era of high profile sexual assault allegations having tremendous political resonance. One thinks immediately of Brett Kavanaugh. You're going to believe Christine Blasey Ford. You're not going to believe Brett Kavanaugh, even though you're decades beyond and there's, very hard to get the facts. I mean, you're just going to believe her out of solidarity with a certain sensibility, a certain side within the political culture conflict. And I wonder if that kind of sensibility, whose side am I on? Who am I? What are my values? What are our institutional values? If that doesn't creep in through this administrative process to the adjudication of individual cases like the one that your client John was caught up in.
You're exactly right. And yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say political theater. That was
Yes. So that's the other layer, is the political theater layer and being on one team or another. And I think the piece of this that we've not talked about, which I feel like is important, is that these cases are at the center of a culture war. And the institutions that traditionally I would have expected take the side of the accused do not, because of the way that the culture war is so politicized. So the best example I can give you is the ACLU, which is this 100-year-old bastion of civil rights, and the belief that no one is guilty until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, and standing up for the most depraved, awful people, including Nazis having the right to march at Skokie, etc. And when the Trump administration came out with guidelines that required, in these campus cases, things like a hearing and cross-examination and a neutral fact finder, the ACLU tweeted out to their 2 million followers, these regulations are terrible and unfairly favor the accused. And I can only conclude that they took that position because they had become the foremost legal colossus that was opposing every single thing that Donald Trump did. And they were on the they were the tip of the spear of the resistance. But it's completely antithetical to their century old mission to say that putting in basic procedures like the ones I described to you unfairly favor the accused. And that's where my quote unquote team is, which again makes this so uncomfortable. I am a progressive, I'm a feminist. I feel like as I'm saying these things to you, maybe your listeners don't even believe me when I say it.
I believe you. She's okay, guys. uh, okay, Trump. So the Obama Education Department, the Trump Education Department, they have different approaches to the question of the enforcement of Title IX regulations. Uh, and Trump bad. Therefore, anything Trump does or Trump agent Betsy DeVos does bad. Uh, but you actually think Obama was wrong. The Obama administration's treatment of this issue was wrong, and that's the rub, right? I mean, when you actually look at what the different policies were, you favor the policy of the Trump administration. I mean, he's not necessarily wrong about everything.
Exactly. And that, again, is deeply uncomfortable. And to make it even more complicated, I mean, obviously, I didn't vote for Donald Trump. I can't stand everything about him. He's anathema to me. And I was certainly not a fan of Betsy DeVos. At the same time, you're absolutely right. Those regulations that were put into place, they were badly needed. And in fact, they were in line with what almost every single court was finding when these cases were ending up in civil litigation. That almost every court was coming down on the side of the Trump regulations because that's just basic common sense.